Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special podcast. Today, I'm joined by Malikar Dayloth, Robot Raptor, Pimp Goose, and of course, yours truly, Galahad Dane. This podcast is going to be about Crusader Kings 2 and what we have to say about that. So, guys, everybody introduce yourself, and let's take it from there.
Wait, isn't it Crusader Kings 3?
It's a Crusader Kings as a whole.
It's the Crusader Kings as a whole, so we can talk about that. We can talk about Crusader Kings 3, so...
All right, just, thinking in the future. Okay, sorry, back on topic. Hi, my name is Pimp Goose. That's cool, yeah.
Hi, my name's
Nice.
Robot Raptor. That's also nice.
Very good.
I guess I'm Malikar Dayloth.
Well, I guess you are then. Awesome.
Nice.
So, guys, I highly recommend you guys go down to their channels. They'll be listed in the description down below. And check them out. They do a lot of Crusader Kings 2 stuff. I know Robot Raptor does a lot of CK2 stuff, and Pimp Goose does a lot of Game of Thrones, I should say. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. They do a lot of Game of Thrones stuff, and Malikar, Dayloth, and myself, we do a lot of more historical style CK2. So, yeah, we're here talking about CK2 today. And what's the first topic, guys?
Well, one thing that we were talking about that would be good for Crusader Kings 3 would be some naval combat, some added combat to the next game. Because having no naval combat but having boats in the game doesn't make sense to me. What do you guys think about that?
All right, I'll just go. So, with the boats, they just sit on top of each other. They don't do anything. They're just there. They're only used to move troops. And, yeah, naval combat would bring a little bit more... some more... I guess of a strategic type deal to it. You can only face the AI, but still, your boats just sitting on top of each other. It's just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right. The whole troop battle part is cool, but I don't know how they would do with the commanders and whatnot. They have special terrain and abilities to match up their commanding skills. You could have naval commanders and whatnot. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, they'd have to add admirals as a trait or something.
Yeah.
Maybe if they had something along the lines of EU4, they've got sort of boats, but I don't know.
I've never played EU4, so what do you mean by that?
So in EU4, it's a lot more. All of the troops are pretty much like in Crusader Kings. You have retinues. It's pretty much all retinues. You have to build your troops and you build your boats individually, but boats can get destroyed. So transporting troops, and you can deal with if someone's trying to invade you, right? If you're England, you can actually just ignore a large part of your mainland infantry and stuff like that, and just focus on boats. I'm pretty bad at EU4, so that's probably not a good strategy, but.
Yeah, but you want something similar, right? Something similar to a similar system to EU4. That's what you were trying to say.
It'd be kind of nice because at the moment you can just use boats as some kind of escape. A lot of the times, whenever you're raiding or just going to war and you don't want to have attrition or anything, you can just go to the boats.
Right. Yeah.
It would be
I can see
cool.
that.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you could break down the boats and use them. If you're invading a foreign territory, you can break down the boats and use them as siege weapons or something. So one boat can equal a battering ram. You can use it in that sort of sense as well.
I think they just added some events to where you can actually when you're sieging a province and you have boats on the outside. I think you get some extra siege events.
Really?
Nowadays. Yeah.
Was that Holy Fury that added that?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, nice.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I know, me neither.
Yeah, me neither.
So, disregard what I just said. Paradox already has it done.
Yeah.
It's not really destroying your boats, but more just, you can sneak into the city or whatever.
From the boats?
That's pretty cool.
Assault from the sea.
Oh, do they launch you over the walls from the catapult or something?
No. But
That would be funny though if they did that. Launch you over the walls with the catapult. The guy probably wouldn't survive, but yeah, okay.
Release the prisoners moment.
So in CK2, do you guys think that like the map? How do you feel about the map? Should the map be like larger? Should it involve more of Africa? Do we want China? Maybe even like Japan? I know there's a mod that adds Japan into the game, which looks really fun. Do you think like any of that would be good to add into, or is Europe itself big enough?
For me personally, I feel like what they've got right now is pretty good. At least if they wanted to keep focusing on sort of the Western world and everything involved with that. But I personally have never actually gotten to India or Mongolia or whatever, unless I was specifically playing in those areas. Like if I want to play as the Mongols, or I want to play as some guy in Sri Lanka or whatever.
Right. I think personally, I think that the map that they have right now is perfect as it is. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much Europe and the Middle East. That was a huge deal in medieval times. I mean, not to say that Asia didn't have its own time too, they did, but I mean, for Crusader Kings, so I mean, it's all in the name, right? Crusader Kings. So it's all about like all the crusades and stuff like that. So I think the map, they could make it more detailed, like they did recently with Holy Fury. They added a whole bunch of land and provinces to England that wasn't there before, and Ireland too. And I think a few counties up in Scotland too, they fixed that as well. So they could make like more counties and to make the map more detailed, basically more historically correct. But other than that, I think the map's perfect.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I don't even know why I put that down. It does seem, even when I play, like I don't even get, like if I even get to form an empire, that's usually when I get bored of playing that save. Like I've never conquered the entire world, so it wouldn't really make much sense to add Asia in, especially when you want to play as like a Crusader King. Because me personally, I would never be able to play long enough to get there, because Crusader Kings is like a slow burn type of game. You have to dump a lot of hours into even a single playthrough for anything to majorly get done. So me personally, I would never even make it to Asia probably, so they'd be adding it for nothing if I was the one playing.
I kind of I play really fast, like 5 speed type stuff. So everything goes really quickly for me. So I wouldn't mind an entire, like adding Africa and Japan in there. And if they really wanted to, they could add the US and Canada or whatever the hell they wanted to do. I don't care. I would enjoy a bigger map. Gives me more to do, gives me more to interact with. Of course, Crusader Kings, it's, crusading, and the USA and Canada doesn't really have much involvement with that. But I feel like it just gives me more to do, make the game a little bit bigger. But like Robot said, once you get to that kind of empire status, the game does get kind of boring, especially when you're in peacetime and you're just sitting there having time go by. It gets really tedious almost. So, I mean, I'm kind of up in the air about it. I wouldn't mind a giant map, but at the same time, ruling an empire does get pretty boring pretty quick. So
I like it when there are either just like mods, or I guess just if they could make like another game or something like that is like focused on China and East Asia, or focused on North America. That would be cool, I think, if they could do that somehow. But
that's why I like the workshop. You have so much like capability to do stuff, like an entire Game of Thrones mod. There's a Skyrim mod on there, right? And then I'm pretty sure there's a Lord of the Rings one too. People just have the ability to create whatever the hell they want. They could make something completely new if they wanted to. And
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of freedom in the Steam Workshop to do a lot of stuff. If you're a modder, CK2, I would say, is a dream come true for you, because you can do anything. Any mod, pretty much.
exactly, you make your own brand new story or world or whatever the hell you wanted to do.
Yeah. Speaking of the Game of Thrones mod, so I haven't covered it on my channel, but I have played the Game of Thrones mod. Like, I think Robot Raptor would know that I'm a huge fan alongside him. I've read all the books and stuff. And what do you guys think about the Game of Thrones mod as it exists right now?
I think that it is the best Game of Thrones game there is out right now. It perfectly encapsulates what Game of Thrones is all about, compared to, like, I guess games that they've released personally themselves. I know they had like an MMO at one point, which was awful. Reigns Game of Thrones came out recently, which doesn't really allow for a lot of role playing. It's like more, it's like just it. Game of Thrones mod is like the best Game of Thrones game media that's out right now. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. IGN.
I know, that's kind of sad to say, though. You would think that there's so much potential you could do with the Game of Thrones game, but like a mod is the best way you can experience a Game of Thrones game right now, is a mod in a game that's not even meant for Game of Thrones.
Right.
And I love the mod. That's what I play most of the time. I just recently started playing the base game a lot more, but I bought this game for the Game of Thrones mod because I started watching YouTube videos on it and stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
I suppose it sort of makes sense, though, because the Game of Thrones is just based so much on history that a game about history would be a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, because real history is very similar to Game of Thrones. Like the whole Game of Thrones scenario, as George R. R. Martin writes it, like personally, I think it's paying homage to England and the Wars of the Roses. So like the houses of Lancaster and York, which are depicted in the books as Lannister and Stark. It's amazing, like how Game of Thrones is so, I would say, similar to real history, and how the modders have done a good job and converted that over to CK2.
Speaking of which, I heard that they're going to update the mod before Christmas to include all the Holy Fury stuff.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
I don't know what they're going to do with it, but apparently they're updating it soon. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. Thank you
That would
to
be
the
great.
modders, whoever, if they're even watching this. I want to say thanks to the modders. And we are going to, like, this may sound like a lot of hate towards Paradox, but this is just giving ideas. We love Paradox. I think we all love Game of Crusader Kings. So even if this does sound like we're hating on them, this is all, like, loving hate. So
I agree.
constructive criticism.
Exactly. I agree. We all love Paradox here. I remember I'm going off on a little bit of a side tangent here, but I remember watching a Dan Jones documentary about the Great British Castles, and like on the side, on the YouTube sidebar, you have like recommendations and stuff. All the way at the bottom was a Crusader Kings video, and I was like, let me check this out. What this game? I mean, I'd heard about it before, but I was never interested in it. But after clicking on that video, I was sold. I was like, okay, all the medieval intrigue and dynasties and all that stuff, it's in here. I'm sold. Like, we do love Paradox, and I would say that if it wasn't for that game, we wouldn't even be able to experience a proper Game of Thrones game, I would say, or a mod. But yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, we're just giving our feedback and our input.
Yeah, something that made me sad is when Telltale closed their studio or whatever recently, and they had that Game of Thrones one that they were doing, but they never updated it or released anything new for it. So, like, I'm pretty sure that's dead, and it's not getting any new content at all.
Wait, Telltale got shut down?
Yeah, they removed all of their employees, practically.
Yeah, they were
Oh
like
my
in the
God.
middle. They were in the middle of Walking Dead, like season 4, and then they had released 2 episodes or something. I'm not sure, and then they just stopped. I don't think they're releasing anything else. So that kind of sucks for the people who bought the game because they got like a fraction of what they actually paid for.
Wow, I love Telltale, but oh my God.
I need to play through that Game of Thrones one, though. I haven't done that yet.
It's very good, though. I mean, I'm a huge DC fan, too, so I got The Wolf Among Us and the Batman game from Telltale. Well, yeah, I'm sad now that shit... But anyway, yeah.
They need to do a Crusader Kings 2 Telltale game. That's what I want to see.
Imagine.
Paradox did release some sort of like a choose your own adventure phone game for Crusader Kings 2.
Really?
Yeah, but I heard it wasn't very good. Yeah, the reviews weren't that good. That's what I heard.
I'd imagine it wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it.
But so this is something that I know that I'm willing to debate about on. But I know one of us said that we were talking about how there shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 start dates, and the game should end in the 15th century. So when you start up the game, it usually gives you like certain time periods you can start with, and especially with DLC, there's different time periods you can start in, the Viking Age and then early medieval. I know one of us said starting in only 1 or 2 start dates and removing the ability to change the start date. So if we want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, personally, I would like them to add another start date, but that's just me because I love to be as historically accurate as possible. So the medieval time period actually started in the 5th century. So when Rome left the shores of England. So if they would add that start date, I mean, it's going back a bit too far, but like if they do that, it would be great. But I mean, the start dates are fine as they are now. What I would suggest that they do is if they remove the last start date, which is late Middle Ages, it's the 14th century, it's 14th or 13th century, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If they remove that, I mean, they're golden. But other than that, I think it's fine.
I want more start dates too. I don't know why. I just like playing as in different specific time periods. I guess the historical part of it too, but like get to experience so many different people and characters and whatnot. And I don't know. I just like the specific time periods. I don't think you should remove the specific. You can choose a specific day or whatever you want to start on. I like that feature too, because you can go back before certain times before one king is dead and maybe extend his rule or something. I don't know what you want to do with it, but I do enjoy the start dates. I think more is always better. That's my opinion, though.
I do like to be able to go to like certain specific start dates, but if they had to choose between doing that and something else like improving some mechanics, like adding boat battles or whatever, then I would definitely choose the boat battles over it because.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely. I definitely would choose more mechanics over a different start date, but I feel like making a start date wouldn't be too hard. I don't know.
But just like the amount of historical research and everything that they have to do to put into every single day that you can choose is, I think I heard Johan talking about it, but I don't know if he was probably talking more about like EU4 and all of those ones instead. But I think that sort of extends into Crusader Kings 2 as well.
How like realistically, realistically accurate are just the random start dates, or are they just like the borders are accurate and then everything else is just kind of random? Does anyone know?
So they have all the big players there, like they've got like the 1066 start date. You have William the Conqueror, and you have Harold Hardrada, and then you have Harold Godwinson, and all these people. The Holy Roman Emperor is there, so the big boys are there, like the big players in that time period. I'm not too sure about the minor counts and nobles though, but the borders, they seem fairly accurate. I mean, other than that, I'm not too sure. Because, I mean, although I love history, I'm not even an amateur historian, so I can't answer that question.
I think they do pretty much as they can, except for, like, in the earlier start dates, you definitely don't have all the information. Like, who is this random count in northern Siberia? No one wrote it down, so really no information on that.
Because, I mean, it must take forever if they were to go, like, meticulously year to year in the entire game, like handpicking special like characters who were actually there. I would think I would lose my mind if I was the person whose that job was. So I can understand if they did like bring down the like time periods they did, and then if they released them as DLC, preferably like maybe free DLC, that'd be great. But I mean, like, it must take a long time for whoever's doing that, whoever's job that is. Like, I feel bad for you.
Much respect to them.
Right. So, yeah, that's I would say that's fairly all good points taken into consideration. So, what's our next topic, Raptor?
So, in Crusader Kings, it should be in like another installment. It should be more focused around like crusades instead of, because like you can play an entire game without having a single crusade if you start in the earlier time dates. So we were talking about having like more in-depth choices for crusades. If you can have like, say, religious fanatics join your armies, maybe some sort of system with pilgrims, religious pilgrims, stuff like that.
Dude, that would be great. I mean, they did a lot of stuff in Holy Fury, which I loved. They almost addressed that issue, but I think Malachar can elaborate on that point.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of like the People's Crusade, the Children's Crusade, and all that. So, like for example, in one of my games, there was one child who did the Children's Crusade. I ended up sponsoring him to the point where I gave him so much money and so much prestige and everything that he spawned. I think it was over 100,000 troops in the Holy Land, and it ended up just conquering the entire thing without any issues.
Wow, that's
So
never
they've
happened
sort
to me.
So they've sort of added these like People's Crusades, and with Holy Fury and all that. But I guess more flavor is more flavor. But more focus on the Crusades. I think that CK2 is sort of, or CK, the Crusader Kings games in general have sort of gone beyond just focusing on Catholicism and the Crusade and all that. Instead, just being the West and the Western world.
Right. I think it encompasses like all of the medieval world, like not only like the West, but like the Middle East as well. Like they've got like this massive Persian Empire and like all the other big boys, like the Ottomans and stuff at like late game. And I mean, I think overall as a whole game, like if you look past the Crusades, it's like a complete medieval game. It is like, for me, it is the medieval game that I want to play.
It's kind of, I was just looking right now on Steam. I do agree, it is like the best medieval game I've ever played. But Crusader Kings 2 came out in 2012, and Crusader Kings, the DLC for Holy Fury, came out 6 years later, like 2018, a couple weeks ago. It's kind of funny that the DLC around the Crusades came out 6 years after Crusader Kings came out. Like, it just feels like, I was like, shouldn't this be like
Yeah.
in the base game maybe? But or shouldn't have been like one of the earlier DLC as opposed to some of the random stuff that they've released. Like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like Crusade should be more of a bigger role, or bigger. It should have been a bigger role from the beginning. It should have been more expanded upon.
I mean, I don't do a whole lot of the base game, so I don't really have a whole lot to add on this subject. Yeah, I mean, crusading is quite, it's in the name of the game, so I don't know, how often crusades happen or whatnot in the base game, but if they don't happen as often, they probably should happen more, considering the name of the game. And it's centered around Europe and whatnot, so, I mean, the Crusades are probably a big part of history, so I would definitely say it wouldn't be bad to add more options to have one, or, just have more in general.
Yeah. So, I guess moving on. So, another thing that we were talking about, like adding.
One
Oh, sorry.
thing to add, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in terms of like the ordering of the DLC, I suppose they sort of had a lot of things to also add. Like, they had to add old gods to open up the map more, and the Republic, and sort of Islam and all that, in order to just make more of the world playable. So that's just what I wanted to add. Before, like, the Crusades and adding more flavor to the game became a big focus.
I remember when I first got the game, I was just clicking around randomly to play a character, and it was just funny because I was like, oh, I'm gonna play like someone into the Middle East. I was like, oh, okay, I can't do that because I don't have the DLC. Like, this was the day I bought the game, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a Viking. I was like, oh, okay, I can't do that either. I'll be like the Mongols. No, it's just funny, like a fraction of the game. Like, there's only like so many people. I mean, it is Crusader Kings 2, so I should have been like, oh, I want to play as a Crusader. But it's just funny that I was like, I want to play like these three people or these three religions or cultures, and I was like, the game's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, it is kind of annoying how they're all locked behind the DLC. I feel like even though, you do want to be a Crusader, those other, cultures and whatnot still play an integral part in the game, and you can do a lot of interesting stuff with those different cultures. So I feel like they shouldn't have those cultures locked behind a paywall. Or,
Right.
well, not paywall, but DLC anyway. I feel
Right.
like if you're going to add the ability to play as new characters, just make it available for everybody so everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah, and it wasn't like those characters weren't there when the game was released. There were still the DLC expanded on them, like Sword of Islam expanded on Muslim religion and stuff like that. But like the characters were there. They should have let us play.
You couldn't play as them though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They should have let us.
Like, yeah, before the DLC, you couldn't play as them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, even if they weren't expanded on, I think it should have been like, even if it was bare bones, I think they could have got away with it because it's like this is Crusader Kings, so they focus mostly on the Crusades and like the Europeans. But just having because the characters are obviously in the game, and just not being able to play them was just strange.
Right. Like one thing I would love to add on this point before we move on to the next topic, like I would agree with Raptor here that even though Sword of Islam, they like added it later. I mean, the Crusades was all about like Christianity going up against Islam. So you should have been able to play as the opposing side. I mean, say for example, if you wanted to play as Saladin, the famous guy who like led the Muslims in that time period, you could have been able to play as them, but well, granted, they did release it as a DLC, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, there's this sort of side, like, what's the point of making it if you can't sell it? I guess. Like, what would you sell in Sword of Islam if you can't, sell the main chunk of thing that you're working on?
Mm.
I kind of like it to where they have very specific. It's like, oh, if you want to play in the Middle East as the Muslims, then you can get that one DLC. And it's not like just a hodgepodge of things that you're getting. Like Sons of Abraham sort of has a focus, but then there's like towards the end, you get to where it's like, what DLC adds that? I don't really know. So,
Yeah. All right. Moving on. What's
Okay.
your next topic,
So,
Raptor?
as another thing that we can like expand upon in the game is barons and like the mayors of towns and cities. So, because they're kind of like, again, they're kind of bare bones, and you can't even play as them. I'm not sure. I don't think you can unless like through console commands. But what do you guys think about like barons and having a bigger role?
Okay, so this is, I think, my point that I had it before this podcast.
Yes.
Barons are very, 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 very important in medieval times because they were the guys who lent the king most of their men, right? So it was very feudal back in the day. So like even if you take, for example, the making of Magna Carta back in the day, which is done in at the River Thames in England, like King John was forced by his barons to sign Magna Carta. He reluctantly signed the document, but there were 4 or 5 barons who were his friends before, but they turned against him, and because they outnumbered his men, because he lost the Duchy of Normandy too. So he'd lost the Duchy of Normandy, he'd been excommunicated by the Pope, and his barons were rising up against him. So they were so powerful that they had him crippled, and they had forced him to sign that document. So playing as a baron underneath a count, I think would be a very good. I mean, you can't do it in CK2, but if they added that to CK3, that would be amazing. Absolutely. I mean, they shouldn't be overlooked.
I feel like they'd have to make the map a little bit more detailed to do that, though. That'd be pretty, I don't know, somewhat difficult if they're going to add all the towns and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If they had sort of like a Imperator Rome style map, that would be cool.
Oh, I would love that.
Like where you can zoom in, it's like, okay, there's a count, and the count's sort of like Duke-sized, I guess.
Right.
At the moment, I don't think barons can even join factions.
No, they can't. They're just there. I mean, they're there, but you can't play as them. You can't do anything, honestly.
Like the worst thing they can do is just assassinate you.
Yeah. I mean, they're just there. They're not playable. If they add that part, and like, mind you, medieval time period, some barons were even more powerful than counts. So, like, depending on which area in Europe you were, like, I mean, they should add that in CK3.
Yeah, going with like how some of the lower tier lords and even the peasants, I think, should have a bigger role in the game, because even sometimes the peasants, we do have like peasant revolts, but usually you can crush those pretty easily. And even if the peasants win, all they would do is like take a small chunk of your kingdom and make it like an independent kingdom. I think it would be cool if the rabble or the peasants could like rise up, and there could be kingdoms with like mob rule, like sort of like the French Revolution type sort of thing. Or even if like the random mobs can like show up to the castle and have like a dialogue with the king, like a little event can pop up where like your people are starving in the streets. You can either give them food for like a gold, or you can like become cruel and just watch them starve or something. Like just a little events like that.
That would be fun. Yeah, I agree.
Form a Monty Python-esque kingdom, peasant republic.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, like I think that just a peasants and the smaller lord should have a bigger role. It's like a barons, especially too. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
so
Moving on to our
Population.
next topic.
in the game, there's like a term in Crusader Kings 2 of a death mob. Some of the things that we could add into the game, we were thinking about like scouts could be a thing where you could have like smaller little stacks that can go scout out in enemy territories, because marching into enemy territories is kind of like a black shadow. You don't know what's going to come at you. So having like things like scouts, like more added to like the army system.
That would definitely be cool, where you can have like a more guerrilla warfare style troops, like where you could sort of hide, because at the moment it's really hard to actually fight someone who has more troops than you. So if there was some sort of
Yeah, I mean, tactics are definitely important, and adding, I don't think they should go like as much in depth as the Total War series does, like min-maxing your commanders and stuff while showing the battlefield. Although that would be nice, but it wouldn't be CK2 or CK3 if they want to do that. I don't know, but like having that aspect to be a little bit more tactical, even though your opponent outnumbers you. If you say, for example, have 300 less men or 400 less men, or even like 500 less men, you should be able to somehow win that battle if you're more tactical. They should add that.
Yeah, right now the only advantage you get is the defensive bonus and terrain bonuses for defenders. But even then, if they come at you with 2,000 more men, they're still most likely going to win because they just outnumber you, and you can't. The defensive bonus can only do so much for you to help you win that battle. So I do think, if there's a way to, like you was saying, like guerrilla warfare, have, oh my goodness,
That's okay.
If there was, ways to take off like chunks of the enemy's men without actually getting into a major battle, I feel like that would be better. Hang on, sorry.
I think
That's
that
okay.
yeah, it's fine. In the like for the battle screens, like when you pick, you can have 3 lanes. You have your left flank, your middle flank, and your right flank, and then you can put commanders in each side. I think it would be interesting if we added something like a vanguard. So like you'd have to fight through the vanguard first. So like just an extra like element in battling. You could also, as I said, you could have scouts. You could have scouts that you can pull from the main army, and that would, if you use scouts against a larger force, you would force them to have to use scouts to like counteract you. That can be pulling men from a larger army. It's like you can either, it's just different ways to engage in combat would be interesting, instead of just throwing death stacks at each other and just hoping whoever has the more men wins.
Yeah, it's all the numbers game right now.
Yeah, in like so we were talking about like resources that could have meaning, because right now the only resources that can pretty much gold. That's the only resource that's in the game, and you can raise gold from like towns or buildings in your city, so that's why you want to take more land, right? But you could have resources like gold mines. You could have resources like silver, mercantile products for trading. You could have farmlands for food. If your people are starving, you'd want to go attack somebody to get more food, stuff like that. So like resources.
Yeah, I think resources would be... Okay, here's my opinion. Now that I think about it, I was going to agree with you. Now that I think about it, I don't think they should add any more resources. You know why? Because CK2 is already a difficult enough game as it is. Mm-hmm. And having extra things to do, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not the best grand strategy player. I probably have the least amount of hours as compared to all you guys here today. So, I mean, it's I mean, I would let's just say yes and no. It would be nice for one thing, but it wouldn't be good for the other. Say, for example, if I have a revolt going on the same time, somebody's trying to assassinate me at the same time, another person is trying to fabricate a claim on my land at the same. Let's just throw it all out there, right? Everything's going wrong.
Everything is
and
falling
you have
apart.
exactly, and you have to manage your economy. Like that would be a bit too much for me. So I don't know.
We'll see.
They
Galahad.
sorry.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, please.
They've sort of got gold mines in the game that they added from the Holy Fury expansion in Africa, like where it's just a building that you can build, increases gold. I think it's on the trade posts as well, but it would definitely be cool to have a little bit more areas, like if some place was historically a gold mine, if some place was historically a silver mine or whatever. And that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But not really specifically a resource that you need.
I think
just some money. Oh.
I'm sorry, we keep cutting each other off. I was going to say I want to do debate with Galahad for a second, because I think that Paradox is like a grand strategy type like company. They make a lot of grand strategy games. I think they need to embrace the difficulty in their games in order to... I want it to be brutal. I want a game that's like so brutal. Once you get a hang of it, though, I want it to be like so much fun. I think Crusader Kings 2 is like a difficult game to get into, but obviously people have gotten into it. It does have a crowd. It does have a fan base. I think that fan base from Crusader Kings 2 would get a Crusader Kings 3 if it came out. I just certainly would. And I don't want Crusader Kings 3 to be the same thing as Crusader Kings 2. I obviously want something added to it. So I think like something like a resource system, while it would make it more difficult for a new person to get into the series, and I don't know how well this would work in like a business statement where they're like, oh yeah, this game's gonna be really hard and like no one's gonna be able to play it. I don't know how well that's gonna sell, but for me, I'd be like, yeah, let's add some resources.
Well, resources, okay. So for resources, if you want to add one more resource, I would say go for it. But if you're trying to add like 6, 7, say agriculture, say for example, like oil, water, stuff like that, like just for example purposes, like so many resources, plus with everything going on, they can add new mechanics. Like, say for example, if you like they introduced like a coronation ceremony in Holy Fury, they can have, for example, a betrothal ceremony. Say for example, when you send the betrothal out now in game, it's just that you send it and they get a pop-up and they accept. Like they can have a whole event chain for that like people came, they like feasted, they visited, whatever, and you can probably get some stats and stuff off of that. But an economy as a whole, if you want to introduce everything, I would say probably no. But if you want to introduce like a couple of things, like you mentioned, like agriculture and stuff like that, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, because like in the game right now, we have stuff like if you go into enemy territory, you start getting attrition and your people are dying. Something like adding with a food resource, adding like supply lines from your capital into enemy into enemy territory, where you'd have to use something like scouts that we talked about to defend that like supply line. It's like adding onto the game like in that sort of way, and that's how they would use resources. Like I don't want it to. I said like I want it to be like brutally hard, but I don't really, because then I wouldn't be smart enough to figure it out. But like it's just like ideas.
Yeah, scouts and stuff, I would agree with you 100%. Like trade routes and scouts and all those things, yeah, they would be beneficial.
Okay, so we were talking about how in the game right now,
can I add something to that?
Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead, please.
Okay, with the whole resource thing, I feel like they could expand upon like the keep building and whatnot, because right now, it only costs gold and prestige and piety to upgrade stuff or whatever it may be. But if you have resources like, I don't know, stone, agriculture, or wood, whatever it may be, it definitely make the building up your keep and making it stronger. But I feel like it'd make it more interesting and have a little bit more to do than just get a certain amount of gold and then wait this many days and then boom, you're done.
Right. Right. It could add to like raiding too. If you see like your neighbor has a lot of wood, and you live on like a tiny rocky island, and you don't have any wood, like you need to go raid your neighbor to get enough wood to build your freaking wall to your castle to defend yourself. This is like early game, I guess, but like it would just add like an extra thing other than, oh, I just want to kill these people to take their money, and apparently the only thing they have is money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about how in the duels in the game, how it is right now, it's like a pop-up, and you have like you have a couple different choices on how you want to attack your enemy, and it's always sword to sword combat. We were talking about different combat like ways between characters. So do you guys have any ideas about?
That's pretty much just the Game of Thrones mod. The way it does that, where you've got multiple options.
Mhm.
In the current situation, it's just you go into a duel, and then it uses whatever item you're equipped, and then it gives you events based on that. You don't get any choices.
Would you like more choices?
I'm sort of split on it because I don't really want to be having to deal with that in multiplayer. It's kind of nice to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to duel that guy. I'm going to win because I have a bajillion friggin' combat score. But I don't know. Getting more options is kind of nice.
This was kind of my recommendation. I really like the idea of expanding upon the duel system. I feel like it would make it a little bit battles more interesting too, because right now the duel, at least in the Game of Thrones mod, is somebody comes up to you, you choose one, and most of the time you win if you have the higher duel skill. But there's a way they can incorporate, quick time events into those duel skills, like I was mentioning earlier in our notes. But say somebody attacks you, and there's like a little timer that says 5, and it says they're swinging up and right, and you want to parry left so you don't get killed. If you miss that quick time event, I feel like you should be punished for it, making it a little bit more difficult in your duels. It gives you stuff to think about, and you have to react quicker, not just sit there and let the battle play out like it does. And of course, with the whole different weapons thing, a spear or a bow and arrow, a sword, whatever it may be, a mace. I feel like those should play different parts in battles as well, or duels anyway.
Like what I would like to see personally would be a revenge system, right? Say, for example, you dueled your arch nemesis and you lost, right? And you sit there plotting your revenge. So a revenge mechanic needs to be there so that you could either like duel him again and kill him, or you could lose again. Like something like that would be nice.
So like a extra rival, like super rival, arch nemesis. This guy, I really hate him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Big rivals since we're 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah, that would be epic, wouldn't it?
Maybe get some like prestige or something if you outlive him.
Oh yeah. Slaughter his whole family after that? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, if you got a super rival, they could add in one of those ambitions or whatever they are to say, hey, kill this family off or kill their family line off, and you get
like a blood feud.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Because, they have sort of a blood feud system for nomads, but it would definitely be nice to be able to, like, have a long-lasting family feud between two people, two families, like whether you're in the same realm or just separate realms or whatever. Just being able to have that story.
Yeah, because that would definitely be, like, very realistic, too, because there are obviously, like, there are noble families and stuff that they do have blood feuds, and, like, even today, I have a blood feud with my neighbor. I really don't like him. So it is very, I think...
Should you be mentioning that on the podcast?
Yeah. No one knows around that, so it's fine.
Okay.
It's like, it would be very satisfying to be able to, like, just murder your rival's entire family.
Murder your neighbor, basically.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Oh my god.
No, I did not know. I didn't understand what you said. I'm not saying that. I know.
Don't
I'm call
kidding,
the lawyers, please. No, in the game, everyone. I mean, in the game, please.
It's coming to real life, baby.
No.
Oh man, I can't stop laughing here. So let's proceed with the next topic, shall we?
So in the game, I know that we some of us have like a lot of hours in the game, and eventually after playing the game for so long, a lot of the events that pop up, they can get a little redundant. So we were talking about obviously having a lot more events in a new title if they ever release one, or in a DLC, maybe like some mystical stuff, some more grounded in reality stuff. So like what would some events that could pop up, what do you guys think about that? More events?
I like the idea. Right now, peacetime is quite boring for me because it's the same stuff over and over again. You know, one day you may have a feast, the events pop up, and they're the same every single time. There's no really difference, and you just kind of skip through them real quick because you already know what they say. You already know what it's going to do. So, more events, yeah, would be nice. I feel like a lot more for peacetime. I don't know, just add more to the role-playing aspect because it just gets almost tedious to see them pop up at certain points for me, at least anyway.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't know how they would be able to change that or add more, but just something to switch the role play peacetime type stuff up because during battles and commanding stuff, you're actually, you know, doing something, but there you're just kind of staring at an empty map and hoping something happens.
It's kind of like the way of life, how that kind of fixed it, but eventually with the way of life, there's only like 2 pop-ups per thing that you pick. So if they could expand on that, maybe that would be like a good solution. But the way of life kind of fixed it, but not really.
I feel like it sort of depends. Like, I mean, there's no amount of handcrafted events that you can have that after 2,000 hours you won't see and know what they all say, you know. So
You know what I would... Yeah, sorry, continue.
So I was just saying that it's sort of fighting an uphill battle on that. I don't know how they would do it without trying to do some sort of dynamic events, and at that point it's sort of iffy whether or not they'd be as interesting as they currently are.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to elaborate on that point, like what I thought would be a great addition would be, I don't know how they're going to do it because I'm not in software development and stuff like that, but an infinite event generator would be amazing. Like you just get like, I mean, think about it from like a real life perspective. Like in reality, there's a lot of things that happen, right, at random times. So just implementing that in game, say for example, you're in, you get an event that pops up and saying that you were contemplating your next move against somebody in a chess game, and you hear about like like somebody trying to, well, say for example, like how should I put this? I'm thinking of a way of how to put it, but like something that happened to you in the past, or something that's going to happen to you. Say for example, if you're playing as a pagan, and one of your sages has told you that, oh, like the gods have predicted that you are going to be like leading the army tomorrow, and like something like that, you know what I mean? Like an infinite event generator. They do have a lot of good events as it is right now, but something that wouldn't be as repetitive. Like Malikar mentioned, like, I mean, after having 2,000 hours in the game, it's pretty much redundant. Like, he doesn't even read the events anymore. So...
Man, I only have 200, and most of the time I don't even read the events.
I just pick whatever seems good. Like I see a little green dot, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get charitable. Sure, I don't even care like what led me to that point.
I know, it's like the event pops up and it's like, lose 30 prestige or gain 40 gold. You're like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to gain 40 gold and move on with it. Like,
sometimes
okay, thanks.
Sometimes it's ridiculous. It's like become like disfigured, or you're going to get like 100 gold. Yeah, it's like ridiculous choices. I'm like, what the heck is this?
It's kind of fun though to like role play through it. It's like, what would my character do? Like if that is a fun way to play through, where you read through events, compare what your traits are like, and then see if your character would choose like, it's like, oh, maybe I do like to get my face disfigured, you know, stuff like that.
I mean, if you're into that, if my character's into that, I guess. But I think one thing that we were talking about is like the community. If there was like a subreddit or something that they could post to Paradox, the community could add events that like we could vote on as like a community, or Paradox could like handpick events that the community like comes up with. I think that would be a good idea to have like how Galahad said, like an infinite amount of events, even if there was like a patch a month or something that just added community events, that'd be cool if they could add that.
Yeah, because I mean, at their dev team, only so many minds. I don't know how many people actually made the game, but only so many minds can think of so many events. And if you, I like what you said though, if you throw in the entire community, everybody's going to have a different idea and different take on what they want. So there's always going to be something new that people are going to want to add.
You can do mods as well. Like if I feel like it's more just like a modding culture thing, but if we could just have more mods that just add random events, stuff like that, like if there was a bunch of mods, maybe it's even on the workshop right now. We're just talking about.
Maybe, who knows? If you're listening, please, Paradox Infinite Event Generator would be much appreciated.
So another thing that we were talking about is like how, for like sort of in Hearts of Iron terms, we could have like factions that can rise up and become alliances. Because in the game right now, you can have an alliance between you and one other person, but there can't be like a faction outside of your own kingdom that can form between different sort of kingdoms. So like in order to oppose like an aggressive leader, sort of like a defensive pact, but like an aggressive pact. So I don't know who said this, but does anyone have anything to say about that? Nice.
Anybody?
Okay, I feel like I'm trying to I'm just skimming through this right now. That'd be a good idea.
That'll be nice, but I don't know. I haven't played Hearts of Iron 4, so I guess I'm lost on this one. Why don't you guys take this one from here?
I haven't played it either. Can't help you with that one.
Oh my god. Okay, my bad. I meant like,
let's move on to the next topic.
Nice. I like that idea.
I do know factions though. Like, I mean, if you were gonna have factions, it would be kind of nice. But just like if a faction joins up for one specific war and then it disbands, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I agree.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that sort of happens with like holy wars, to where, or I guess that's the Crusades, right?
Yeah, that is. I mean, you know what? You're 100% right. That's already in the game.
Never mind then.
Oh boy. So we have three more points. I'm just gonna read it. This is like from our little discussion. So we have better graphics. I'm just gonna read them all so we all know what's coming up. Better graphics. Reinstating landless lords who were kicked out of their lordship instead of just taking all conquered lands as your own. And then we could talk about DLC. DLC policy versus the consumer. So those are our three next points. Let's just talk about better graphics, because obviously CK2 is kind of a numbers game. It's not like Total War, which is a more demanding game where they have every single unit is like animated, every man is animated. It's more of just like huge stacks of numbers fighting against each other. So like, I mean, graphics shouldn't really be that much of a problem for a game like this. So if there ever is a Crusader Kings 3, like better graphics. I don't know if this is a debate. I mean, I think we all should expect better graphics, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to improve on that regardless for better graphics. What I would like to add to this point is, though, that moving forward, I would like their games to be more based on the graphics card. I don't know how they're going to do that. I mean, Paradox is famous for you having a beefy CPU to play their games. But for people who don't, like I have a Core i5. It's like a mid-range CPU. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But the thing is, to rely more on your graphics card would be a bit better, I would say, as compared to relying on your CPU, if they can do that. If they can't, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Be beautiful if they could have it, pull from both. So it's just, kind of in the middle there.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't have a good graphics card, but your CPU is good, then, it's going to be the same argument on the other side. So,
you're right.
I mean,
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
If you can find a way to integrate both of them and make it a little bit more even, I feel like that'd be good.
I don't have a clue on how that hardware works.
Yeah, me neither.
All I know is like CPU does math, but then again, I guess the GPU also does math. I'm not sure. But yeah, I would like just Imperator Rome-esque graphics, which looks like what they're going to do from now on.
Yeah.
Imperator Rome, Hearts of Iron style map graphics where it looks real nice up close, and then also you can I like the zoomed out paper map style,
Like where you see the terrain.
where you like. Have you seen Imperial Rome's map when you zoom out?
No, I haven't.
I have, and it looks amazing.
Okay, I was just, yeah.
I'll
It
take your
looks
word for it.
like it sort of looks like CK2's, I guess, but if you had like a paper map and then colored in all the countries that you know of, that's
Oh.
basically what it is.
But looks good.
Mhm.
Nice.
So yeah, they're moving in that direction.
I don't know, like that wasn't really a point we could all like debate on. Like no one's gonna be like, yeah, I want the graphics to look awful next game.
It's like 8-bit all the way.
Like, I want this NES looking game for CK3. Yeah, so I guess
run it on my potato.
so 2 points left. I guess we can talk about reinstating landless lords who are kicked out of their lordships, which is already in the game. That's one of the things, but it's instead of conquering lands as your own, this would be truer to history. An exile lord reclaims their keep.
That would be amazing. Being
Yeah.
a historical enthusiast, that is a dream come true if they implement that in the future again. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it in a next DLC. That would be a long shot, but I mean, if they manage to implement that in CK3, that would be absolutely amazing. I would love that.
So, could you explain a little bit? Because is it like adventurers type? Some guy builds up an army on his own and then goes and invades that place to try and take over his land, or what?
No, what I think what Raptor is trying to say, like, take Outlaw King for example. Robert de Bruce was exiled from his own land, so him coming back and reclaiming Scotland for his own himself. I mean, although it is pretty much in game right now, but like having more of that, because there were more characters like that in the medieval world that were like kicked out. Say, for example, the Habsburgs, they were like cut off from European power structures and stuff like that. Them coming back and reclaiming it, having that mechanic or that feature would be amazing to have. That's what he's trying to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I could something. I know how landless lords in this game. Like once you become landless, the game pretty much ends. It'd be cool if you were like overthrown or something by, I don't know, like a peasant revolt, say, and you become landless. It'd be cool if there was a way to where that game wouldn't end for you, and you could, after a certain amount of time, you know, try to fight back against these peasants per se, and take your keep back without the game ending, because it's just like, okay, my land's gone, but like I'm still alive. I can still, you know, try to find a way to get my land back, even though I'm not earning any income. But, you know, they could have a whole nother event type list like we were adding on earlier. Add more events to where, sure, you lost your land. Hey, let's go on adventure. You don't have anything to lose. Try to get some stuff and, you know, fight back. I feel like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. In Horse Lords, you can't play it, but when a Horse Lord loses all of their land, they turn into a raiding adventurer. And so they've got some troops. They've got all the troops that they had when they were still alive. And they just go around raiding places until someone gives them some land. So like something like that, but playable.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if they could add like an extra, I don't know, extra layer to the game, just adding more stuff to Crusader Kings 3 if it comes out, or if this is what they add, like another, like I don't want to call it like a mini game, but like this isn't the main focus of the game, but there's stuff for you to do once you do become landless. Like you can go around, if you have a high diplomacy, you can go to a foreign king and like plead your case, and depending on how high your diplomacy is, he'll either accept you or not, or you have to like pay him. If you have a high marshal, like warriors will rally to you. Like they can kind of add that. If there's an intrigue, you could I don't know, murder,
Scheme your way.
scheme your way back in. Like there's should be ways to, I don't know.
That would definitely add more upon the way of life type stuff too,
Yeah.
because it would actually give you a reason to choose certain focuses. Because I feel now, like diplomacy and intrigue focuses are kind of almost useless in a way.
Mhm.
I feel like it's important to have a good marshal, and I feel like that's the one that's probably the best, at least in my opinion, to have. And like, because since you're ruling the character, you can make your own diplomatic and, you know, stewardship and intrigue based decisions on your own without having those high stewardship skills, because only those low ones only affect so many events. and you get to
Stewardship
choose. You get to choose like what you're doing, what you're ruling. So I don't know. They give it more of a purpose to have a higher stewardship or whatnot.
Stewardship is really useful for just holding land, holding a lot of personal territory because it increases your domain limit.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I think it would be cool if there was like an event chain. Like once you die, like you lose all your land, it's not just game over, but just like a little bit of an event chain, give you a chance of getting your land back. And if you fail the event chain or whatever, then your dynasty fades into nothingness, sort of.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
Yeah, with like the way of life thing, I feel like I do use the stewardship one. I do use the intrigue one, like the seduction focus. If I want to get a kid, I try to use that, and I use the martial one. But like I never use the like the religion one, like theology type stuff. I never use like I don't even know what that does. Honestly, I'm gonna be 100% honest. But I guess if you do lose the game and you lose all your lands, I guess you could like go to the Pope, and if you have high religion stats, he could like yeah, piety. That's what I mean. He could like call a holy war if like heretics took over or something like that. So like you can just do something like that.
Like Vikings invade France, take all your land, go to the Pope, get a crusade, get your land back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because I've never used the way of life. I've never used the piety, religion focused ones. I never even train my kids like that. I'm like, who does this?
I pretty much use the struggle and the duty focuses. That's about it for my child. And then I just put it on war or rulership for when I'm an adult. And of course, you know, if you want to try to have a kid, then seduction. But it's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I usually use for if I have like a daughter or if I have a niece or somebody like that, then I'll maybe give them intrigue depending on their stats and stuff. But other than that, like, I don't know. It seems pretty useless.
I always fear for my life whenever I give second sons intrigue focus or intrigue education focus. I'm always like,
oh yeah.
Do I want this guy to have like 12 intrigue and nothing else and just murder my genius heir? I don't know. But yeah, it would be kind of cool to have. I suppose it's just more of a personal issue though. Like, need to try out the other things. See what they're good at.
And I guess for our last point, we were going to talk about DLC and like the DLC practices. And I'll say that I'm really negative towards DLC. I'm against it. And I'm looking at the Steam store right now. And if you wanted to buy all of the DLC for Crusader Kings 2, just all the DLC, not even with the game, it would come out to like $300. $301.72. And granted, you could get it on sale, but this is what they set it to. This is what they want you to pay for it. That's what the developers are saying. And just to put it into perspective, how we just kind of bashed on Way of Life and how we're like, yeah, there's not really much to do in it. Way of Life isn't in the game. You have to pay $8 to add Way of Life into the game. So that's just perspective, just how we were kind of bashing on it, like, oh, there's nothing to do after a while. That's $8 to add it onto the base game, which is $40 still. It's $40 and the game's... I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here. It's been freaking 6 years. It's almost 7 years and the game's $40 still on the Steam store.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to, if you want to experience the game fully without, you know, all the cosmetic DLC and whatnot, but if you want all the DLC that actually changes the game, you shouldn't have to pay $40 and then, you know, I don't know how much the actual like game-changing DLC comes out to besides the cosmetic ones, but you shouldn't have to pay that much to experience Crusader Kings 2 in its entirety. I don't like that, and like Robot, I don't like the whole DLC part. I wish they just kind of made it free, but I understand they're still trying to get revenue out of their game. I get that, but I don't like everything locked behind the paywall.
I mean, personally, I mean, it would be nice if it was cheaper, but there's still, like, I mean, what other game has new DLC and new stuff, new content coming out 6 years after the game has been released to where, well, I guess World of Warcraft, but like, I mean, new stuff, like, compared to the original Crusader Kings 2, this game is completely different. Like, you can almost, I think you can even go to the betas and check out what it was like originally. But they also add, with every expansion, free stuff as well, like factions were added, as well as all the map expansions and everything. So I wouldn't say it's not like they're just adding DLC and nothing else. So just want to say.
Yeah, for me, I would agree with Malakar on this part. Like, sorry, Raptor, but
No, it's fine.
the thing is,
Be prepared to
the thing
debate,
is-
though. That's all I.
yeah,
No, I'm sorry.
the thing. Wow, you're ready to fight, but no, I'm just kidding. I'll give you maple syrup, and everything will be just fine. You'll calm down. Okay, but the thing is that, like, look at it from a developer's perspective. Like, this is the reason their DLC is the reason why the game is still alive. I mean, look at other games, like, other than, of course, World of Warcraft and the Elder Scrolls series, like, putting them on the side. What other game is still, like, that healthy like CK2 is today? I mean, pretty much a game comes out, couple of DLC, 1, 2, maybe 3, and then after that, okay, on to the next game. Like, the DLC is the reason why they keep coming back to this game, and the DLC is the reason why it's, like, so healthy and popular. Like, I do agree with you guys that they should decrease the price for the DLC that they charge, maybe like half price it or something. But they do have awesome sales. I mean, they had a sale recently in which I scooped up like 6 DLCs. Like, I was telling Malakar the other day, like, for like $4, $5. I mean, if you can't afford to pay that, I mean, well, maybe need to, but I do understand that they need to, like, lower their general prices. Like, if it's not on sale, then I would agree. Like, maybe don't get all the DLC right away. Dip your toe in the water and see how the base game is, and if you like it, then purchase a couple. But regarding the game as a whole, I think they should support it for as long as they can.
One thing.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. So, oh boy. So yeah, okay. So what you just said with how it is, the DLC's fine as long as it's on sale, and like if it's on sale, that's a great like price to pay for it. It's not. That's like if the DLC was the price it was while it's on sale, like 24/7, that would be fine. But it's the fact that it's not always on sale. Like Ultimate Music Pack is $25, and that came out in that came out in 2017. But that's not my point. Like, if it was on sale, listen, if it was on sale all the time, that'll be fine. But that's not how the developers chose to sell it. They're choosing to sell it at full price. Like, the full price could be the price that is on sale. And for Malakar, you said, like, what other game for 6 years has had this type of fan base strong and healthy for that long? No other game, because every other game that has like this kind of fan base has released a sequel to which the fans have migrated to. Like, instead of spending all this money and time on the DLC, if they had just released CK3 in the 6 years since they released CK2, obviously CK2 wouldn't be as popular as it is right now, but CK3 would, in my opinion, it would have been a success. So it's like, yes, you can say that CK2 is fine with the DLC, and that's why they're keeping it alive, but instead of making the DLC, they could have just released CK3.
Well, sequels are not, to come back to this point, sequels are not, like, always the best thing. I mean, look at Fallout 76. Look at how that game turned out. Like, I mean, it's not always like you're going to make a sequel and, yeah, it's going to be a hit. But, I mean, this is Paradox we're talking about. So their sequels are going to be hits. We know that. But looking from it from that point of view, I think at this point, they don't need to make a CK3. Maybe, like, say late 2019 or maybe 2020, they might start working on CK3. But the way the game is now, it's fine. If they stop deciding to make DLCs for it now, yeah, sure. And as far as, like, the prices go, I mean, come on. It's on sale for almost half the time in the year. I mean, they had 2 sales this month. 2 sales in 1 month. And I mean, a lot of DLC is $4, $5, $2, $1.45 for the custom, like $1.45 for the customization pack. I mean, if anybody can't afford that, then I mean, they need to get off their computer. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
one thing that would be kind of nice, I suppose, is if like over time the older DLCs sort of got cheaper over time. Like if Sword of Islam or whatever, I think that was the first DLC. If that went down to like say $5 now or something, some of the more base level, it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty important to play the game. Like Old Gods maybe went down to like $7. But I suppose that sort of is handled in the sales.
Yeah,
But
I'm looking at it from a business point of view because I've been to business school and stuff like that, so I know this kind of thing. Like having your DLC on sale twice in the same month is a huge deal, and if the people don't pick it up, I mean that's on them. Then it's not the developer's fault.
Well, why isn't it? Why don't they just decrease the price? Like, why don't they just keep the? Well,
It's sort of the culture of Steam just to have the massive DLC or massive sales,
yeah.
So that might be part of it.
So they're keeping
Also-
the prices up on purpose to get us excited for the sales.
But Raptor,
In
that's
order-
every game though. It's not only
This is a conspiracy.
The other thing that keeps the game alive, like I mentioned, is like friggin' just the mods, the insane amount of mods is what kept this game alive. It's what's still sort of keeping Skyrim alive. So it's not just the DLC, though the DLC helps.
If you had to guess how many DLC there are, and you might know this off the top of your head, but without looking, tell me how many DLC there are. Okay, if someone.
I'm already on the page, man.
No, damn.
I'm gonna guess. Well, it sort of changed because, like, I mean, they used to have all of the like portraits and everything separate instead of those like compilation packs or whatever. But if I was just to say everything on its own, over 100. I could actually count through CK2 because they've still got the thing. That's probably over 100.
Well, on the downloadable content for this game, like that's in the package for $300, there's 30 different items in that package. So I just counted that, which it's just a lot. It's just a lot of stuff. They're pinching pennies, in my opinion.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I understand your point of view. I mean, the economy is one huge factor that nobody ever takes into account. But there's that. Then, like, they have to keep their business running too. I mean, the developers, they need to get paid. And but that's the thing, though, Raptor. I do agree that they should lower their prices. I agree on that point. But the thing is that all the games are doing it. So it's not like they're the only one who's doing this. So, I mean, you can't change the whole culture. It would be nice if they reduced their prices a little bit. But, I mean, they do have sales very often. And, I mean, I know a lot of players who play different games and they pay way more than $300 for their games. So, I don't know. It's probably just me, though.
I don't have $300 to throw around. That's for sure.
I don't either.
That's why I play mods. It's free DLC.
Yeah, mods are, again, one of the reasons why the game is alive. Like, specifically, like, the Game of Thrones mod, like, it's amazing. Like, the Game of Thrones mod has attracted, I would say, almost 25% more players to this game, which is great.
That's what
But,
attracted me to the game.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are proof. Like, you and Goose and Raptor, you guys, I mean, I think you guys have never done a base game CK2 game on your channel, right? Playthrough?
No. Or yes, you're correct.
No, I've played it like on my own, but I haven't actually done like a recording.
Yeah, same.
Only
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And I mean, if this didn't exist, they wouldn't have the mod for it. So there you go.
I mean, to be honest, it's because I only know Game of Thrones, really. I don't know a whole lot about real history. I'm definitely more of a Game of Thrones kind of nerd, but I feel like if I knew more about history, I would be more confident in doing a base game playthrough, but it's definitely, I'm going to stick to the Game of Thrones stuff for a while.
Yeah, so you just proved my point. You're one of the 25% I got attracted to the game because of that.
I got interested in history because of the game.
Yeah,
Ooh,
there you go.
Whoa. They're probably like the 1%. That's crazy.
I don't know. But yeah, there's also, by the way, 71 DLC.
71.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. And if they start working on CK3 maybe sometime late 2019 or mid 2019 if they want to, I mean, it's all up to the guys there, Johan and Henrik Farias and all those gentlemen up there. They've done a fantastic job with the game. I mean, if they want to do another year of DLC, I'm happy.
I'm not.
I don't know. Whatever, to me. I don't really care. As long as they keep,
Go ahead.
keep the betas going to where you can like roll back the saves, I'm fine with it. Because the main thing for me is just keeping mods able to be used no matter what, which is really nice that they do. They had to change it recently, but yeah.
Yeah, there was like an update.
Versions.
Yeah, there was an update that like didn't allow me to update until I made a Paradox account, and that like freaked me out because I thought I wasn't gonna be able to play my Game of Thrones, and I was gonna send an angry letter to Paradox.
Oh, Paradox, if you're listening. If
You dodged a bullet with that one. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh man, those angry letters. But I think it was like a law change in the EU, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I vaguely read up on it, and it was like the privacy or something.
Mm-hmm. The thing that caused everyone to lose their terms of service.
Yeah.
Right? So I think those are all our points, right?
Correct.
Anybody wants to add something else?
No,
I think that
I'm
CK2. Oh yeah, CK2 is a great game, and if we did sound angry, me personally, at any point, it's a great game, and I love Paradox, so it's loving hate, like I said before. Constructive criticism.
Exactly.
Yep. Anything else, Goose or Malakar? Anything you guys want to add?
YouTube.com/pimpgoose. Go subscribe. Thank you.
There you go.
If you made it this far, thanks for watching.
Yes. If you stuck around through this whole thing, bless you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys
Watch
are
the Succession
champions. Yeah. Watch our Succession game, please. So everybody just tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll end the podcast there.
Well, I already said where they can find me, so
Yep.
go over.
Raptor.
My channel name's Robot Raptor, so look that up.
Malakar.
Yep. Look up Malakar. I posted a comment in the last Succession episode.
Right.
Go and see that. The next video. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our podcast for Crusader Kings 2. And if this podcast is successful, we will continue on with this podcast series, maybe once a month or twice a month or bi-weekly. I think
every day
we might be able to do it. Yeah.
No, that's a no-go.
Yeah, or whenever we are available to do it. So my hosts have been, my co-hosts, I should say, have been Malakar Delot, Robot Raptor, Pimp Goose. Please go over to their channel, subscribe. They have amazing content. And my voice is cracking up here. So I have been your host, Galahad Dane, and go over to my channel too as I shamefully promote myself. Subscribe, and yeah, we will see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Farewell.